Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Asia TOEFL webinar series, and this is the our fourth webinar of the year. So we are waiting for other participants to join our webinar. So in the meantime, if some of you who have not registered for this webinar yet, so please make sure to use the link or the QR code shared on the screen to complete your registration. And in a few minutes' time, we will be ready to start our fourth Asia TOEFL webinar. So just wait for a few minutes time, actually. Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, a very good morning, good afternoon, good evening, depending on where you are. So thank you for joining us today. First of all, I would encourage you all to turn on the camera, please, so that we can see each other's faces. And please do turn on your camera if you are comfortable with that. So right, it's such a great pleasure for me to be here to have this opportunity to welcome all of you to our last webinar, which is the fourth Asia TOEFL webinar. My name is Luke Manmoi. I am a lecturer in TESOL at Princess of Narathiwat University, Thailand. And I am also here today, the moderator for this webinar, and I'll be with you throughout our session today. So just the FYI, the Asia TOEFL webinar series for 2023 has taken place every 2 months on the last Saturday of the month. And we have held 4 webinars this year. The first one was in May, the second was in July, the third one was in September, and the last one today is in November. And of course, as it marks the last webinar of the year, so we'd like to thank you, everybody who has joined us for the webinars we have organized, and we hope that you have enjoyed all of them. But for those who have not joined us for the previous webinars, it's all right, actually. You can watch all the past webinars on our YouTube channel. So please subscribe to Asia TOEFL, ASIA-TEFL on YouTube, and you will see all the past webinars, not only from this year, but from previous years. And as you know, our webinar theme today is English language teaching, pedagogy, in the elementary and secondary classrooms, what really works. And we have 4 speakers, as you can see on the screen right now. They are experts in our own fields and also passionate about sharing their expertise and also experiences with the language teaching pedagogy in both the elementary and secondary classrooms. So as we have 4 speakers, so I'd like just to give you some quick introduction to our speakers. So the first speaker is Miss Jimmy Kim from Gyeonggi Science High School, South Korea. And the second speaker is Professor Yoshi Kiyota from Meisei University, Japan. And the third is the Professor Natsu Nakayama from Bankyu University, Japan. And the last speaker is Dr. Laili Amin Fajaria from Yogyakarta State University, Indonesia. So as we have 4 speakers, actually, but there are 3 presentations. So each presentation takes roughly around 15 minutes. But for the second and the third speaker, because it is a dual presentation, so they would spend roughly around 20 minutes for the second and the third speaker. And something exciting, actually, we are thrilled to let you know that there are more than 800 people from 50 countries around the world who registered their interest in attending this webinar. And we are remarkably a global presence, and we are certainly proud to be part of this diverse and vibrant English language teaching community that welcomes everybody. It doesn't matter where you are and who you are and where you come from. So I'd like just to announce that the Asia TOEFL organization has a 2 presidency, and we have 2 presidents. The first is Professor Suwasi Majia and Professor Juk Kong Park. I'm sure that Professor Juk Kong Park is now here with us. And if you could actually give us a nice waving, I'm sure that everybody would like to see you as well. Okay, right. I think as far as I can see that there are now about 124 people on Zoom. So just to save our time, so at the moment, I'd like to officially start our webinar today. So now I would like to invite Professor Juk Kong Park to give the welcoming address to everybody who is now attending our fourth webinar today. So please welcome Professor, if you are ready. Professor, are you with us now? Okay, so let me just double check with my technical team whether Professor Juk Yong Park can now access and is able to give the welcoming speech here with us. Okay, while we are waiting for Professor Juk Yong Park to be able to join us, I'd like just to give you some announcements first. In terms of the registration, just a gentle reminder to those who have not registered yet for this webinar, so you can do so. This will be part of our database purposes, so it would be appreciated if you could sign in using the link and the QR code here. And please do so if you could, and just for our database purposes only. And of course, this webinar is free, and then you could actually do help us if you could. So please.
Sorry, yeah, I'm ready. I had a trouble with the unmuting myself. Can you hear me?
Right, okay, that would be great.
Okay.
So, yes, so please welcome Professor to give us some of the inspiring welcoming speech, please.
Okay. Well, thank you very much, distinguished speakers, President Swarsi Madia, and all my Asia TEFL Executive Council and Advisory Board members, and all my current and future members of Asia TEFL. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, once again, depending on where you are. I'd like to extend my warmest welcome to all of you, and thank you so much for joining today's webinar. Ever since its foundation in 2003, every single year, Asia TEFL has made a miracle, breaking a record in its membership, number of regional reps and conference participants, paper submissions to our journal, and so forth. And this year, we celebrated our 20th anniversary. So as a 20-year-old fully grown organization, Asia TEFL is still growing, and webinar series is the one that has been adding so much more values and charms to Asia TEFL. Starting with the first one held in 2022, it has never failed to attract 300 to 500 attendees from many different parts of the world. And we have covered diverse webinar themes that are timely and significant. And mostly the speakers have always met the participants' expectations, not only with their expertise and experience, but more importantly, with their willingness to share them with us free of charge. And as the president, I'm very proud and grateful for the webinar committee for their professional organizing and managing the webinars, as you can witness today. And of course, we've had all the audience like you who has joined with your great passion for learning and professional development. You are the ones that make our webinar series successful and sustainable most. So I truly thank you all. Well, as you all know, this is the fourth and the last webinar of this year, and its theme is ELT Pedagogy in the elementary and secondary classrooms, what really works. And I'd like to extend my gratitude to our four invited speakers, Ms. Jimmy Kim from Korea, and Professor Yoichi Kiyota, and Professor Natsuye Nakayama from Japan, and Dr. Laili Armin Bazaria from Indonesia. Well, let me ask you questions. What do your classrooms mean to you? Every morning when you wake up, are you happy and thrilled to go to your classrooms where you see all the bright smiles on your students' faces? Or terrified, thinking of those with no smiles, no responses, no interest whatsoever? I think classrooms are alpha and omega of education, where all the good old methods are solidified and new ones are born and developed. They can be either cradles for young minds and hearts to grow to be the leaders of the world, or a battlefield, or even killing field for them to lose their hopes, dreams, and even lives instead. And now we are living in this post-normal times or post-pandemic periods when students and teachers both are not the same as they used to be, as the whole society is not. Then emerge so many queries and we wonder, what's wrong? Who's to blame? What works and what not? Therefore, I'm really thrilled to hear from our speakers today about what their classrooms are like. And then I'm sure you will be the same. Finally, as president of Asia TEFL, I'd like to take the opportunity to invite all of you to Asia TEFL's other important activities, including our annual international conference, Scopus to Index the Journal of Asia TEFL, and Asia TEFL book series. Next year's Asia TEFL will be held in Chiang Rai, Thailand on 15th to 17th November 2024. Please mark those days on your calendar. And the conference theme is Equity, Diversity, and Inclusivity in ELT. The call for presentation will be coming out soon, and all the information on these events and activities is available at the Asia TEFL website, www.asiatefl.org. And I learned from the webinar committee that we have more non-members than members that are participating today. So those of you who are not members yet, please join and be part of this wonderful organization. You are always welcome. So now please enjoy today's webinar, and I look forward to seeing you all again at our next webinar in May 2024. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Professor Jit Kun Park, the president of the Asia TEFL, for your nice, wonderful, welcoming speech, and also some information about what is interesting if you would like to join our Asia TEFL organization. Of course, if you could visit our website, www.theasiatefl.org, and also we have conferences. And for this year, as Professor has informed us, so Thailand is hosting the Asia TEFL conference in Chiang Rai. So I'll tell you more details again at the end of our session today. So yes, just a quick reminder, actually, in terms of the registration, I have informed you. If you could do so, that would be appreciated. And also, if you have questions, if you like to ask our speakers, you could also send your questions during this session. So please send your questions to our online question platform called Mentimeter. So please could you use that platform as a channel for you to post your questions. You can scan the QR code that you can see on the screen at the moment, and you can also use our chat room, the little box down on the Zoom screen. We have the team who will be selecting your questions and give those to our speakers who could answer your question during the question time. Also, in terms of e-certificates, as always, we usually give you an e-certificates for those who have joined us. So we are delighted to tell you that in terms of the e-certificates, you could complete an e-form at the end of the Zoom webinar series today, and we will be displaying a slide at the end of the webinar where you can use the link and or scan the QR code to fill your form. But not to worry at the moment, because we would like to hear our expert to share their insights into pedagogy in the elementary and secondary classrooms. So in terms of the speaker session, I just want to give you a quick information. Actually, so the first one is this webinar is roughly about 2 hours, and then each speaker will be given 15 minutes to present, except the second and the third speaker, as they are going to do the dual presentation. So that will be 20 minutes for them. And then roughly speaking, about 3 minutes remaining in terms of your presentation time, we will give you a signal. And then again, with the times it's up, I'll let you know again so that you could summarize and come to the end of your presentation. And in terms of the Q&A, after all of the speakers have presented, there will be a question time. Then I'll pick up some of your questions and then let the speakers answer. So without further ado, now it's the exciting moment for everybody to listen to our key speakers. So I would like to introduce our speaker first. The first speaker is Miss Jimmy Kim from Gyeonggi Science High School, South Korea. So Jimmy is the English language teacher who loves both teaching and research, and she has over 20 years of experience teaching English, and she holds a master's degree in TESOL from the University of Edinburgh, Scotland, and currently also a PhD candidate at Hankook University from Foreign Studies. Her research interests includes corpus linguistics, assessment, speaking instruction, and translanguaging. She strives to live a life where research and teaching coexist harmoniously. And surely the Miss Jimmy is now with us, and the topic that she will be presenting is teaching speaking in the secondary classroom. So ladies and gentlemen, so please join me in welcoming our first speaker, Miss Jimmy Kim.
Thank you. Thank you so much for your wonderful introduction, and thank you all of you as a warm welcoming. So I'd like to share my slides. So everyone, can you hear my voice and see my screen clearly? Yes, great, awesome. Then I'd like to start right now. So as today's main theme of the webinar is what really works in the secondary classroom. So I hope as a teacher, I'd like to give you some experience in my classroom, and hopefully it can inspire you in many ways. So the title of my speech presentation is Teaching Speaking in a Secondary Classroom. And before I start my main presentation, I'd like to ask you 3 quick questions. First, what kind of speaking activities have you tried recently? And why you are trying that activity? Were your learners engaged in that activity? And thirdly, after that speaking activity, what kind of feedback did you give to your learners? So to answer these questions, today I organized my presentation like this. First, I'd like to introduce a speaking project that I've tried. And second, based on the speaking projects, I actually designed the research. And third, drawn from the research results, I'd like to suggest 3 pedagogical implications. So to start, I'd like to give you a brief description of my teaching context so that you can have a clearer ideas about what I'm doing here. So it is located in Korea, and this is a science high school where all the students have their own majors related to the science, such as physics, biology, or chemistry, or sometimes informatics. And all my learners are 3rd grade of high school students, and their average age is between 17 and 18. The majority of students are male students. And our school curriculums are highly focused on the STEAM related, such as science and technology and math. And regarding their proficiency level, their levels are probably placed between CEF being the B1 to B2, which means that majority of students are placed in intermediate, or some of them are upper intermediates. So considering all these features of my learners, me and my colleagues have concerns about what kind of speaking activity will motivate them and also inspires them, because they're all interested in science. And one of my colleagues suggested a fantastic idea. How about employing a speech contest format? So found out that a theme lab speech contest. I think some of you already heard about this before. It looks like a TED, but this is not. It's quite different. So to talk about some of the features of theme lab, this is an international speech contest, and it has a very strict rule of the speech length, that is 3 minutes. And all the topics should be related to the STEM, so which is perfect choice for our learners. And the target audience for this speech is the lay audience, which means that the audience does not have any specific expertise regarding the scientific topic. And there are other features that might help my learners develop their speaking ability. And one of that is the participants in this speech context are not allowed to use the slides. But usually in Korean teaching context, when we give our learners a presentation activity, we let them use the slides. So sometimes the learners too much rely on the slides and they just read it. But this speech format does not allow this one. And the majority of the participants are graduate students, which means that they all have their own fields. And this is very similar to our students. And next, the participants, as I just told you, is international speech competitions. They are mostly multilingual or non-native speakers. So we could see a lot of non-native communicators. And there's a separate session for a finalist. So considering all these features, I designed a speaking project like this. So it has 3 different sessions, and it starts from the training session. In training session, I consist of 3 different lessons. And here students learn how to organize their speech, the format of the theme lab speech, and the basic criteria for the evaluations. And here they also watch it a non-native finalist of the theme lab speech using the YouTube clip. I found it extremely useful for them because they not only focus on the fluency of the speaker, but they also focus on the non-native speaker's contents. Because if you just give them a native speaker's clips, they usually focus on the nativeness of the speakers. And we moved to the writing session. At the writing session, students chose their own topic, and they also write a script. And while they're writing scripts, by using the Google Classroom platform, I monitor their writing and also give them feedback on their organization. And after this writing session, we move to the speech session, which is the most important part. And the students perform a speech. And after the speech, they do the self-evaluations and also give the feedback to their peers and as teachers too. So after completing all this, I kind of become so curious because like for this speech, there are 120 high school students participating, and it took over 8 weeks. And I also monitor their writing using Google Classroom. And they actually had a rehearsal time, and they did actual performance for 3 minutes for each presentation. It turns out to be really a successful project. And as you see the pictures on the screen, you cannot actually see their face, but you can find out that they're really actively and dynamically interacted with their audience. So I kind of become very curious about their quality of the speech. And also, I kind of become curious about, are they really learning something from this speech? So I gave them a reflection journal, and I found very meaningful comments from the students. So I'd like to share some of these. Student A, it was fun to have opportunity to talk about my favorite topic, and I became more confident in speaking. So giving them a chance to choose their own topic actually interested them and motivated them a lot. Student B, I was nervous because I couldn't use the slides, but it turns out to be okay because I also had a fun using prompts. So instead of just using memos or slides, they actually try to use props to communicate with the audience, and then they're actually more engaged in their speaking. Students see theme lab winners' presentation is very helpful this time, and also I care the content more than the pronunciation, which means that by presenting a non-native speaker model, it actually motivates students a lot and it encourages them a lot. So here, I wanted to design a research because I kind of think that maybe there are not much big difference between non-native speakers' presentation and native speakers' presentation. So I try to include my learners too in design this kind of research. So it's basically a corpus-based comparative study. And the first group is my learners, a non-native novice. I'm going to call them NNN. And for the second group, the non-native expert group, the reason why I call them an expert group is that because they're all FameLab finalists from 2010 to 2019. And for the last group, the native FameLab finalists from 2010 and 2019. And I'm going to call them native expert group NE. There are a lot of ways actually to evaluate the quality of the L2 order products. But one of the ways is to evaluate their use of vocabulary using the index of lexical richness. So I'm going to use that here. To give a bit of theoretical background here, I think all of you will agree on this idea that vocabulary knowledge is one of the most essential factors that influences your general language competence. And according to the Reed, regarding the lexical richness, there are three aspects. One of them is the diversity, and the other one is the density, and the third one is sophistications. Diversity is a matter of how diverse and different a word you're using. The density is the ratio between the content word and total token. And the sophistication is about like how advanced words, how different words you're using in your speech. And for this research, I found a study that is done by Zareba 2019. And he also investigated over presentations done by these three groups. Those are EFR students, ESR students, and native speakers. And the interesting result is that he found out the similarity across the three groups, which is really meaningful to me because not only the nativeness, but also the disciplinary knowledge from the students can actually develop their level of vocabulary knowledge in the speech. So I collected data. For the expert groups data, I used the YouTube official FameLab channel, and then I did the transcriptions. And for my learners, I actually recorded their presentations and did the transcriptions. And after that, I did some statistical job using a man Whitney. And for this research, I kind of overly simplified the research, but just want to give you quick ideas about my research. And if you look at this research, the interesting thing is that for density and sophistication, there's not much difference between all these three groups, which is really surprising because if they do have their own topic to talk about, they can actually increase the level of density and sophistication. Because all the learners, they do have their own expertise in their own field. They kind of try to use advanced words or technical ones to explain their own areas. Of course, for diversity, you see there are some relatively big differences between the non-native group and the experts group. But there's another very happy result. That is, if you look at the non-native experts group, then you see their diversity level is not much different from the native experts group, which means that if our learners get trained in with the help of appropriate feedback, someday they can actually increase their level of diversity, which is really helpful and encouraging for my learners. So based on these research today, I'd like to suggest these three pedagogical implications. First, why don't you just present a successful non-native speaker as a role model, not just giving them a native speaker's clip or YouTube channels. Instead of those, we can just give them a non-native speaker so that they can be encouraged in, oh, maybe I can do like them. And for seconds, why don't you just give them more opportunity to explore their own topics for speaking? Usually in classroom setting, we just assign them a same topic for everyone. But if they had to have a chance to choose their own, they probably explore more. And then they try to use more of the advanced words so that they can actually raise their density or sophistication in terms of their use of vocabulary.
Sorry, Miss Jimmy, just to let you know that you've got 3 minutes left for the presentation.
Thank you. And this is my last implication, the suggestions. So based on this kind of pilot study results, we can give them a more concrete feedbacks in terms of their use of vocabulary. So far, we just give them a subjective evaluation such as like, oh, you really did a great job. You're really fluent in your speech. But if you have some data, such as the objective data that I just showed you, then we can give a specific suggestion, such as, yes, you use a lot of noun and verb, and you use a lot of advanced words. But next time, why don't you try to use more diverse expressions? So instead of repeating same words again and again, why don't you try to paraphrase your main idea into different expressions, or try to use more synonyms? So giving this more specific feedback to students actually can narrow down their efforts and can develop their speaking. So these are all for my presentation today, and thank you for listening. If you have any questions, please feel free to ask me. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Jimmy, for your wonderful presentation. Of course, this is the research-based approach, where you could see that she has used corpus linguistics to see the differences between, among the 3 groups. And as you can see, that is really inspiring practice that you could see in terms of the analysis. And of course, if you have questions about how to teach speaking, the one that Jimmy told us is Fame Lab. And there are questions definitely at the end of our speaker session, and I will pick up some of them and let the Jimmy answer the question later. So yes, thank you, Jimmy. Thank you very much. And then next is the our 2 speakers who will be presenting today. So Professor Yoshi Kiyota from Meisei University from Japan, and the Professor Natsu Nakayama from Bunkyu University, Japan, to present the work on the teaching culture creatively project in the elementary school English classes. Before you do that, I just want to give everybody the quick introduction of who they are. So Yoshi Kiyota is Professor of Education at Meisei University, Tokyo, Japan, where he has been involved in the management of English language education and the teaching training course of English language since 2008. His current research interests are foreign language education from global citizenship education and foreign language learning in cooperation with museums. He has been involved in service learning as an advisor of teacher training for English education of secondary schools, project-based learning programs, and international educational projects at local schools. Natsu is also a professor at the Faculty of Education, Bunkyu University in Japan. She received a master's from the University of Oxford. She has been involved in teaching EFL and pre-service teacher training for more than 15 years. Her research interest includes language teacher education, intercultural approaches to language learning, and also user research of dictionaries. So now I'm sure that they are ready here to present to us. So please give a warm welcome to both professors, Yoshi and Natsu. Please welcome. The floor is yours.
Thank you. Thank you for your very kind introduction. Okay, so may I share my slide? Okay. Okay. Thank you. And we are very pleased to see so many participants today. Okay, today we would like to talk about a project that we were involved in, and it took place on March this year. And first, I, Natsue Nakayama, will talk about the outline of the project. And then next, Professor Kiyota from Meisei University, he will talk about implications gained through the study. So talking about the Japanese educational system, from 2020, foreign languages, or mainly English, became an official subject for 5th and 6th grades. And the goal of the subject is to develop basic communicative competence in a foreign language. And the goal is not only to acquire language skills, okay, so to develop basic communicative competence. So based on this new goal, our new government certified textbooks are published, and we are using it as the main teaching materials in the class. And in it, there are many foreign cultural topics. However, as you can see from this green box on the below, okay, this is excerpt from the textbook. Many of the cultural topics dealt with are mainly facts-based, so like cultural facts. Page et al. Explains, to become effective cultural learners, students must develop a variety of learning strategies ranging from reflective observation to active experimentation, or in other words, experiential learning. So our question was, how can we design a class for children to learn culture in depth, not simply as facts learning, but as their own experience? So with reference to the language passport of the European Language Portfolio, or ELP, we developed a self-evaluation descriptors for learning culture in elementary school English classes. And we call that Passport to Junior High School Culture Edition. So what is this Passport to Junior High School Culture Edition? It is a reflection tool to develop learner autonomy in language and culture. And it was created based on the results of the analysis of 3 government certified textbooks. So it lists all the cultural topics and competences possibly enhanced using the English textbook. So students can actually reflect on their cultural learning, record it, and set another new goal using this passport. And on your right, you can see the slide, the green box, okay? It's an excerpt from the passport. Like the components of intercultural competence, it is divided into knowledge and skills section and attitudes section. And in the knowledge skills, it says the world is full of diverse cultures. So it's about knowledge and cultural diversity. And below, there are descriptors for the students to check, self-assess themselves. So students read these descriptors, and in the square, they self-assess their understanding. So using this passport, presentation project was conducted for 6th graders, 2 classes in Tokyo. It was done in an English class, and the materials used were government certified textbook and this passport. This is the class outline. In the first term, they learned about the world using the textbook and the passport. In the second term, they used this textbook and the passport. And also, they did a inquiry-based culture learning to deepen their understanding on what they have learned in the text. And in the third term, today we're going to talk about this presentation project that we did in the end of this term 3. This was a group presentation project. So what each group members did was, first, they chose their own theme from the passport. As I mentioned before, this passport was made based on the government certified textbook. So the themes are the ones that they have already learned, covered in the textbook. So here are some of the examples of the themes, like languages of the world heritages, red list animals, okay? And then they decided a presentation method. They can choose their own, like picture book making or short play, paper doll theater, etc. And then they had to create their own story and to act out. So what they did, first choosing the theme, deciding a presentation method, and create. This is because we thought creativity will further enhance learner autonomy. Rosenberg explains that creativity helps learners become active in the learning process and discover what they can do with the second language they learn. And they had to create their own story, not only create the story, but to act out, okay? And this is because we thought acting out, creating a story, it will make their cultural knowledge like personalized and actually experience the learned cultural facts. Ishii et al. Explains, trying to see things from the perspective of other culture enhances empathy. So this is the project outline. We used 7 class hours. In the first week, each group chose their own theme from the text. And in the next week, they created an original story. And in the next class, they wrote a script and started to prepare for props for the presentation, like paper dolls or picture books. On the 4th lesson, they started the presentation practice. In the 5th week, they presented in front of neighboring class students. And also they recorded their own presentation and observed and reflect for revision. 6th week, they present in front of the classmates. And in the final week, they did a final presentation. In one lesson, they acted the story 3 times to a different audience. The audience were classmates and also English-speaking guests. Even from the first week of this project, the students were informed about the intended audience. So we could see that during this rehearsing period and the preparation periods, and even in the final presentation session, the students were trying to convey their message. They were trying to look for a better way to convey their message to the audience. So this is the purpose of the study, to plan a project that fosters students' attitude to explore culture autonomously. And the method of analysis was first to analyze the comments of English guests using KH Coder. The second was analysis of learners' rehearsal recordings from students' autonomy perspective, skills on intercultural interpretation and association, and attitude toward the audience. So here are some of the photos from the final presentation. Okay, let me explain some of it. On this bottom right, okay, the student is introducing the kilt from a Scottish perspective. He was saying that don't call it a skirt. This is our national costume. So by acting out, we can see that students are putting themselves in others' shoes. Here's some more photos. Okay, on the left, this group made a story about festivals around the world. And at the tomato festival, one of the characters is splashed with origami tomatoes. Students were explaining how they felt as if they were actually experiencing the festival. And on the bottom right, they made a story about traveling around the world and seeing many wonderful World Heritage sites. And in the end, a character come back to Japan and found that even in Japan, we also have wonderful sites too. So here we can see the students are, looking at their own culture from a different new perspective. We conducted text analysis of comments gained by English-speaking guests. So here are the results of clusters observed through the text analysis. Okay, and actually there were 3 big clusters, and let me introduce the name of the cluster and some of the comments. Okay, the biggest cluster was on impressions on the presentation. Guest E said students were not reading the script, they were trying to act the story. And guest G said, maybe the teacher is always guiding the children to be autonomous. The second largest cluster was on making the presentation personalized and trying to communicate it to the audience. Guest B said, the origami tomatoes and airplanes and costume made the presentation entertaining. So through her comments, we can see that students were actively trying to convey their message, their story to the audience. And finally, the smallest but very important cluster was on learning through other groups. Guest F said, I saw that they were learning good points from other groups and trying to improve their presentations in the next session. So this is all from me. I'll hand over to Professor Kiyota.
Okay, thank you. Okay, I'll talk about the factor of creative thinking now. Let me show you my presentation screen. Okay. Okay, can you see my slide? Okay. 見えてますか? Okay, thank you. And I'd like to focus on the creative thinking factor now. And a summary of the third term project. I'd like to confirm the result now. And we found two important pedagogical points in this project. And the first point is an attitude of trying to convey their message, not just reading their English script. This is considered to be the autonomous attitude of the students. And second is, we found many stories. The students wrote their own stories, many stories connecting their daily English classes to the world beyond the school setting, just like using Dokodemo Door. Do you know Dokodemo Door too? The Doraemon comic story. Of course, it's an imaginary tool, but it suggests the learners recognize their everyday English learning has possibilities to explore a diverse culture and societies. And as Professor Nakayama suggested, we expected the student to deepen the cultural learning through their English language learning. However, designing cultural learning is not easy because it doesn't have any standard learning procedure. This is one of the main reasons we developed the passport self-evaluation worksheet, culture edition. Learners can't acquire those strategies through conventional fact-based learning method, but through their exploratory way. In other words, experiential learning. We think creative thinking skill will support this sort of learning. Okay, and of course, creative thinking skill can support not only the foreign language learning, but other learning subjects such as sociology and science. And PISA from OECD reports a benefit of creative thinking skill of the young people in the following way. Educating for creative thinking can help young people to adapt to develop the capacities to undertake work that cannot easily be replaced by machines and address increasingly complex local and global challenges with out-of-box solutions. And this comment is very suggestive to consider the younger generation, the future, and the related learning. I believe that promoting the attitude of opening doors to unknown cultures through the foreign language learning is becoming very important now. Then creative thinking skill help learners develop an interest in the society in which they live and outside of it. Besides, it will help learners understand foreign language learning strategies necessary for living in the world. And generally, teachers evaluate student English proficiency through communicative skills related to specific situations, such as shopping or self-introductions and travel and so on. However, we are facing drastic technological change, such as automatic translation system. Do you know the 翻訳こんにゃく? It's one of the Doraemon's too. Under the circumstances, this type of English teaching is being questioned. And the teachers should encourage their students to be independent learners in exploring the appropriate learning strategies. And some of my students in my training class, teacher training class, mentioned these kind of anxieties. Yes, at the end of my presentation, I have just 10 minutes. So at the end of my presentation, I'd like to suggest some beneficial points from research of creative environment in schools. This research reports on a systematic review of 210 pieces of educational research, policy, and professional literature. There are five common features from 210, and which can promote creativity. They are learners having control of their learning and ownership of activity. Varied physical environment at school and elsewhere, such as museums. I think museum is very beneficial facilities for experiential learning, and flexible use of time, including time beyond the school and the curriculum boundaries, and allowing pupils to work at their own pace without pressure. Now you understand these features are related to autonomous learners. Yes, and to enhance creativity, the language learning class, relationship between teachers and learners is very important. In our case study, the teacher encouraged her students creating their own stories based on their learning themes. I believe there existed good mutual respect between the teacher, the Kuroki-sensei in Tokyo, and the students. The students enjoyed working collaboratively with the classmates. They made efforts in creating their own stories with friends and improved their presentation, observing other groups' performance. Professor Nakayama also mentioned this, observe the others' performance and take the good benefits. And I think one of the significant elements of creative thinking is questioning skill. For example, learners can observe current situation carefully and find some issues need to be discussed. I believe these features will encourage learners to ask various questions for exploring their learning. So there may be it's important skill, the questioning, and maybe question to the others, teachers, other classmates. And the most important point is question to oneself. Okay.
Sorry, Professor, just to let you know that you've got a few minutes.
Oh, yes. That's all from me. Yes.
All right.
Thank you for listening. Thank you.
Thank you very much, both Professors Yoshi and Natsu, for your presentation in terms of the teaching culture creatively and the project that you came up with to help us understand the complexities of the culture that can be shared in the classroom and the way in which that the students could question thinking out of the box and also could learn more about people's culture. And of course, what is really interesting is the way in which you're trying to tell us about the classroom, which is actually a square room. And the aim is to teach English, but actually when it comes to sharing, when it comes to showing or increasing the learner's autonomy, we can see more things from the student's perspective. And in terms of for example, the way that one of the students talked about the kilt from Scotland, which is actually not a skirt, it's actually a traditional way of wearing. But yes, students could question that, thinking out of the box, and also in terms of the cultural understanding. So really inspiring presentation today, and I hope that everybody can feel that as well. Right, so thank you both professors for your insightful sharing. Now, if you have questions, of course, please post your questions via Mentimeter. So please scan the QR code on the screen, or you can use the chat room to ask us the questions. And then after our last speaker, who would share the ideas about the pedagogy in the classroom. So then later on, then we would pick up some questions actually. Okay, so here is the last speaker, Dr. Laili Amin Farah from Yogyakarta State University from Indonesia. And she will be presenting DELA, or if you like to spell that out, is differentiated English language assessments in junior high school. But before she is presenting her work, so I just want to give you all the introduction of Dr. Laila. So Dr. Laili is the English teacher, junior high school, Pekeng, Yogyakarta province from Indonesia. She holds a doctorate degree in educational research and evaluation at Yogyakarta State University, and also a master's degree in applied linguistics, concentration on the English education at Yogyakarta State University as well. And now she is also a mentor teacher for in-service teacher professional education program, or PPG Darjat, from Yogyakarta. So now she is ready here. So I just want to give a warm welcome to Dr. Laili, who will be presenting the work today. So please welcome her here.
Thank you for the nice introduction, and thank you also for Asia TEFL, who gives me the opportunity to share my dissertation and also chance to learn from the other practitioners and also experts here. Let me share my screen. Okay, today I'd like to present my work entitled DELA. It stands for Differentiated English Language Assessment in Junior High School. So, in the classroom, usually teachers deals with students' differentiation, such as various background of the students, interests, learning profile, and also readiness to learn. And students' differentiation can be accommodated through differentiated instructions and assessment. Although differentiated assessment has many benefits, but there were very few studies compared to those of differentiated instructions. And in Indonesia, differentiated assessment promotes student-centered learning. And in Indonesia, it is already mandated in the National Education System, Law Number 20, year 2003. And for the latest development in the Merdeka curriculum, which focus on the students' potential development and diverse characteristics of the students, as it is mandated in the Ministry of Education, Culture, Research, and Technology Regulations number 5, 7, 16, and 21, 2022. But for my preliminary study, teachers faced challenges after the zoning system with mixed ability classes. So the teachers were shocked to deal with the students with various ability, from the slow learners to the high learners in one classroom, and also the students' differentiation in the classroom. They knew that differentiation was needed, yet one-fits-all activities were still commonly practiced, and differentiation was not yet fully accommodated in the classroom. On the other hand, students show that they have various needs in the EFL classroom. Therefore, a comprehensive model to implement differentiated instruction and assessment in the EFL classroom is needed. And to conduct this study, I reviewed some literature related to classroom-based assessment, differentiated assessment, English language assessment, and also developing assessment instruments, and also reviewed some relevant studies of the implementations of differentiated assessment and the practices of differentiated assessment, and also framework of differentiated assessment. But the existing model or implementations of differentiated assessment are partial differentiation component, and it focuses on what if formative or summative only, and for only specific groups of students, such as for the high achieving students. Therefore, in this study, I developed a comprehensive model which covers both formative and summative assessment, and also for all groups of students, and include all the components of differentiation. To conduct the study, I used DBR, or design-based research, which consists of 3 mesocycles. Starting from the first mesocycle is for the model development, which consists of 3 microcycles. And then for the next mesocycle is the implementations for the time triangulation. And for the third is for the space triangulations. So for the total, it consists of 9 microcycles. And the product evaluations were done in 10 schools, which represent the suburb, rural areas, and also the city. And the model or the framework of DELA model is like in this slide. It consists of 3 elements of differentiation, starting from readiness to learn, interest, and learning profile. And from those differentiation, the components of differentiation from content, process, and product were included through pre-assessment. There were 2 pre-assessment. There is the pre-assessment for the readiness to learn, to gather information related to the students' readiness to learn. And then for the second one, for gather information related to the students' interest and learning profile. And from the pre-assessment related to the students' readiness to learn, the teachers can get information whether the students can be given the DELA package A or B or C, which is DELA A is the easy one, the B is the default setting, and the C is for the advanced tasks. And then for the need assessment, the information was used to develop the worksheet or the students' worksheet, the students' activity in the classroom. And in the end, for the summative assessment, it consists of 2. The first is for the knowledge. There is a unit test, which also consists of 3, unit tests A, B, and C. And then for the performance test, the students can choose which performance test that suits their interest. And this is the first is related to the pre-assessment results. So there were most of the students 14 years old, because it is for designed for junior high school students. So there are students from 11 years old to 14 years old, 15 years old. And then for the materials that the students like, this is one of the example of the result of the need assessment. The students like animation video most, and followed by the text, and then infographic and audio, and also video. And for the setting of the assessment of the English skills, they prefer the activity in small groups consist of 3 or 4 students. And then some of them prefer the individual work, and then some others prefer in pairs. And for the pre-assessment for the readiness to learn, it provides information for the suggestions for the teachers to give the package for the students. So the students who got score below the quartile 1, the first quartile, they can work with DELA A, and then those in the middle can work with the default task in DELA B, and then for those who got score higher than the third quartile, they can work on the DELA C package. And the differentiated assessment also provide the worksheet or the task for the students with differentiated tasks. Like this, task A is designed for DELA A, has, a simpler language compared to text B and text C. And then the text for text C is the most complicated. So it consists of more words in B1 and B2 compared to text A and text B. This is for the text. And for the task, the task also designed for the simple one for DELA A, and then for the default setting, for the average one for DELA B, and the next is for the most complicated one in DELA C. For the media, I designed animation video, which provide the students with opportunity to be able to listen to the audio and watch the visuals. And also I provide subtitle here so that the students can read the text. And for the unit tests were developed based on Barrett's taxonomy, and the unit tests A, B, and C were also differentiated in terms of the levels of the questions based on Barrett's taxonomy. And for the performance task, it is developed based on the students' needs. Based on students' interest. The students can choose whether they want to work in pairs or individually in front of the class to have presentation in front of the class, or whether they want to have speaking practice or speaking performance tests in through acting out in front of acting out in video, or they want to work in 3 or 4 groups, 3 or 4 students in one group, and also or work individually. And some students also like creating animation, so they did the task by creating their own animation and upload it in YouTube. And during the implementation, the first implementation was done in 2 classes, because these 2 classes were representing the most mixed ability classes compared to the other classes, and the 2 classes were scheduled in one time. So it was challenging to teach 2 classes in one time, and therefore this study was implemented there. And there was a problem for the students filling out the KWL chart. The students were not familiar with the chart, so it took more than 20 minutes for the students to fill in the chart. And at the end of every meeting, students fill in the exit slip to reflect on what they have done in the meeting. Like this, this is for the green one is the exit slip in the first meeting. Some students still circle or choose the emoticon with not sure, because they were still confused dealing with the KWL chart. And then for the next meeting, more students circle the smiley face and also the excited face. And in this exit slip, the students also can reflect on what they liked most and what they disliked most. From this information, the teacher can reflect on the teaching so that can provide the right treatment for the student in the upcoming meeting. And after the implementations of the DELA model, students were interviewed, and most of the students liked the survey game. So during the teaching and learning process, there were speaking practice using survey game, and most of them like it. And they also like the speaking practice or speaking performance task activity, and they like the media in the form of animation or video. And most of the students think that DELA is good and interesting. And it can be reflected by the teachers that DELA has already included the 3 types of assessment in the differentiated classroom, starting from pre-assessment and ongoing assessment and summative assessment. And then it is the students' different needs have been accommodated in the implementations of DELA, and also that the 3 differentiations have been accommodated in DELA. Those are students' interest, students' readiness to learn, and students' learning profile. And DELA includes the differentiations from content, process, and product. However, there is a problem here. Students had difficulty in filling out the KWL chart. So revision, this is one of the revisions made for the worksheet. So revision related to the KWL chart. In the next implementations, the KWL chart was given choices for the no and want column, so that the students can choose which one that suits to their current situations. And in the second implementation and the third implementation, it worked well. The students takes less time compared to the first implementation to fill out the KWL chart.
Sorry, Dr. Lali, just to let you know that you've got a few minutes times left.
Okay, and in conclusion, DELA can become the basis for the other research studies on the differentiation in language assessment. It provides stages for implementing differentiated assessment that can become a reference for other researchers. And DELA model also promote teachers' change through reflective teaching and student self-regulated learning. And in practice, DELA contributes to the teacher's practice of differentiation in the classroom, and it helps teachers to accommodate students' differentiation in various needs in the classroom. It also provides the not only benefits to the students, but also for the teachers during the research study and also after the study, as admitted by some teachers that they had some, inspirations from the model to develop their own differentiated assessment practice in the classroom. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Lili, for your wonderful presentation and the model that you created, DELA, which helps teachers, of course, to assess the students' ability. And of course, as you said, that when it comes to mixed ability students, then it may be quite challenging for students to ensure that everybody can achieve at a certain level as the teachers expected, because some students are not confident enough to act out, while some students are very confident and very fluent in English. So of course, the way that you have told us are very interesting, and of course questions from our attendees today are also important, and I would rather want to ask you questions later on as well. So right, thank you very much, everybody. The fourth, all of the speakers who have been here with us presenting their interesting work, research-based, and also something that we could actually think about when we go back to our classroom, trying to see our classroom as the way for us to do research, and also the way for us to teach better and do better for the benefits of our students. And yes, now we are moving on to the question and answer session. And definitely, I've got some questions with me that our attendees have put on the Mentimeter. So now we have, roughly speaking, about 20 minutes for the question and answer. So at the moment, what I'm thinking of is just to ask some questions and then let each speaker to answer. And later on, we also have some other general questions that our speakers would rather want to add on. So first, let me just ask Jimmy, who presented the work just now. Jimmy, your presentation was really interesting, and there is some questions for you that our attendee would rather want to ask. Is that how can you motivate the secondary study to be always the secondary students to be always energetic in class? Because one of the problems is that they cannot pay attention through the class, during the class duration, and because they might be tired or they might not be energetic enough. And when you talk about speaking session, it's all about activities, all about acting out. So how could you motivate the students to be more energetic in the classroom?
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for your questions. So yeah, I mean, motivating students, especially the teenagers, is the most challenging thing. I can totally relate how teachers feel about this one. And I don't think I have a perfect solution for this, but like one of my findings from my 20 years of teaching English is that the more I talk, the less they talk. So I kind of try to monitor what I'm doing in my classroom and see and control the ratio between my lecture and their activity, because sometimes we try to give too much thing to students, so we don't really give them any opportunity for showing their own ability. So I kind of try to reduce my talk and then make them the main character of their own drama. So if usually students are become more focused when they see their peer, their friends, not me. So giving them those kind of speaking activity, they can be the main character of that session. So then students become more concentrated on what they're doing. So this could be one of my tips, but I believe that all the teachers, they do have their own solution. So one cannot fit the whole situation, but still this could be some kind of tip for the teachers, I guess. Yeah, give more opportunity to students.
Thank you. Yes. That's really very good thinking. Of course, we let them speak more. But there is another question to ask you actually. How about those who are shy to speak up, or stand in the front?
Yeah, right.
Would you encourage them to be able to be more confident in speaking and in order to speak publicly? And for those who are not really confident enough.
Of course, sometimes they're just naturally shy or introverted, but sometimes because they become shy due to their language competency. In that cases, I try to kind of set the situation where a student can do speaking activity with their best friends. So I just let them choose their own group, with their close friends or 2 or 3 friends, not in really a big group. So usually students can lower their anxiety in a smaller group. So you can split your classes into different small groups, and then in that group they can actually give their presentation in 2 minutes or 3 minutes. They can actually lower their anxiety, and later if you move on to the bigger group, they can probably control their emotion more actively, I guess.
Thank you very much, Jimmy, for that. Yes, of course, in terms of the, doing things collaboratively is really important in the classroom. And also something related to your research, actually, Jimmy, when you talk about your research, the FAME lab one, the one that you presented, when students give a speech without PowerPoint slides, I think that you told that students were not allowed to give slides. Our attendee wanted to know whether they spoke, like a more like impromptu speech, like speaking without preparation, or did they prepare the exact way prepare beforehand and memorize what they wanted to speak?
Yeah, thank you for raising that issue, because I also have concern about that issue, whether this is an impromptu speech or a prepared speech. But in terms of the type of speech, I definitely think that this is a prepared speech. And some might think that's, oh, then is it a memorizing a task? Not really, you're speaking. So I just checked the questions, and some actually asked that's like, is it really an authentic speaking ability? But like considering that there are a lot of different types of speech in our daily life, sometimes they give an impromptu, like a casual conversation or a speech, but sometimes we do a lot of prepared speech, just like what I did today. So like considering that, I think like still investigating this kind of prepared speech is really meaningful to find out what they can do in those kind of academic setting. So this is a prepared speech, but when I compare their script, their written script, and their real recording transcription, I found a lot of kind of differences also, because sometimes they have to change their contents as they go. So it's not exactly memorization, but it's a kind of prepared. I hope that this can answer. Yes.
Okay. And also last thing to say, actually, when you talked about delivering the speech, in terms of the topic, I'm not sure whether cultural context, say, Korean cultural situation are taken into account when it comes to delivering the speech, or do you just give them the topic that is, quite in the current situation, like a news, things that happens in the news? Or do you
okay, so I think, yeah, maybe I think if you just give them too much like a broad choices, whatever you want, then it's going to be a little bit difficult to control their speaking task, because everyone has a different interest. But sometimes if you want to focus on the cultural issues, then I think it's okay. You can just like categorize certain things and give them a main theme. So today we're going to talk about like a K-drama. If you have an interest in K-drama, you can talk about it, because you all have your favorite drama. But like this time, since all my students are interested in science, that's the reason why I chose science. But if your learners have a different interest, then definitely I think that could be another good choices for speaking.
Lovely. All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
For wonderful answers. Great. I'm sure that it would answer people's question here. Now let's move to the professors Kiyota and Natsu. I would like just to address to the Professor Natsu first. One of our attendees wanted to know about your explanation in terms of the passport project, and their question is, how do we encourage students who seems not interested in cultural content lessons? For example, those who don't seem to really interested in people's culture. I think that could be the question. So how would you encourage them to be able to engage with other people's cultures?
Yeah, I think that's a very difficult but important question. And today we focused on one school that we introduced this project, which was conducted in one school. And at that school, they are basing this passport, cultural passport, as a base to create the curriculum. So actually all the themes there are taken from the textbooks. So when they finish their 5th and 6th grade study, they automatically kind of learn those things, but without maybe not really focusing on the cultural themes. Maybe they're simply studying about the language, but anyway, the topic is there. So they kind of see them. So all the classes that they use the government certified textbook will deal with the topic, but whether or not they focus in it or not, that's there. So the teacher of this classroom, they designed the class based on that. So in order to make the students, that is like elementary school 5th and 6th graders, who are very interested in and curious in other cultures, there's still kids. So some are not has not interest in it, but the teacher tries to create the environment that the students will automatically become interested in it. So like, for example, the teacher said the school's goal is to enhance interest and to create like a global citizen, the school's goal. And also the teacher, like, for example, put many English picture books, which is dealing with many cultures that they learned on the textbook. Often they invited guests from other institute who are studying about different things, and they invited those students overseas students to talk in front of the children. And we were also invited as guests to see what they are doing. So they are really, the classroom and the classroom teachers are really open to let the students feel that there are many different kinds of cultures there, and that is natural. And so they are trying to create the environment that they will get interested into it. So sorry, it's really difficult to say, but so the problem is that in many schools, even though the textbook, there are many cultural facts, but many of the teachers kind of skipped those cultural parts and focus on language points. So so maybe that is one of the things that how to incorporate that learning culture into classroom, and show that using the passport is maybe one way to improve that situation too in Japanese elementary schools.
And of course, yes, very good thinking, actually. The way that you told us about, including culture more in the classroom, and the way that we teach is we don't teach just the language, the abstraction of the language, but also the culture. But how about the textbook wise, or maybe the teacher themselves, when they're trying to impose more kind of normative culture, the way that we say British English or American English, would that also something that we should be considered in terms of the which culture is more legitimate to be taught in the classroom or to be learned in the classroom?
Since we kind of study English, and because it isn't like an international language, so it's not like which language is kind of normative, but for example, looking into the textbook, in Japanese textbook, we are dealing with many different kinds of cultures, because we can communicate using English. It's not only for English speaking country. So maybe in a textbook there are many those normative cultures there, but that's not all. And as a teacher and as a teacher trainer, I want to say that why are we studying English? If the children, like elementary school students, ask you, why do we have to study English? How would you answer? So that's the point that I want them to think about.
Yes, the awareness. And thank you very much, Professor. And I think all of us want to hear this as well, in terms of the teaching students the cultures, and in terms of the teaching awareness of what kind of culture, and when it comes to explaining, of course, critical thinking should be involved as well. So thank you. And Professor Kiyota, we'd like to know more about the learner's autonomy. Of course, when we are, we are a teacher, we also know the words authority and a learner's autonomy. So what do you think English language teachers should keep in mind when teaching in order to enhance learner's autonomy? Do you understand my question? Professor Kyoto.
Yes, thank you for your question. And before answering the encouraging the learner autonomy, I have another answer to your question to the Nakayama, Professor Nakayama, encouraging the cultural interest. And especially for elementary school children, using the picture book is very a good way to encourage to enhance their cultural interest. And for myself, can you see this? This is the picture book. And I myself created this picture book with my students. And this picture book has 3 episodes of sweets in the world: French, Mexico, and Syria. And maybe at the end of the story, the main character is a cat. Can you see this? This character asks the leaders like this: "Here is a message to you from Sweetie." His name is Sweetie. "You now know that every sweet has a story, so now it's your turn. Where do you live now? Do you have any local sweet? And please draw your favorite sweet and tell your story." Maybe these kind of tools, picture book, is good tools, materials to enhance their cultural interest. And going back to your question, learner autonomy. Yes, learner autonomy has some kind of close relationship, their own interest. And so that is the reason why we made set the creative thinking in the main topic for this case study. And usually when we use the textbook, and we generally we force students to memorize the English expressions, which may be useful in some day, maybe when they travel or when they when buy something in the overseas countries, but it's a little far from their interest. And I think in encouraging their autonomy is going back to their basic interest, especially for the early age the learners. And also, but the same thing is for the junior and senior students. They have their own interest in their learning, and maybe I'm interested in the content-based learning. So maybe learning content has close relationship, their language learning, and also so they're to be independent learner. So sorry, but is it all right with you?
Oh yes, definitely. Of course, whatever you are trying to tell us is all about your perspective, which is from your expertise, and definitely we have gained a lot from that. So thank you very much indeed. So there is a person who would like to ask a question. I can see that there is a hand raising. So can you unmute yourself actually, Lefi, if you'd like to ask the questions, please? Can you unmute yourself, or Lefi?
Yeah. Oh, hello. Thank you. Thank you, Luke. I'm waiting for the moment. Thank you very much, finally.
Okay. Yeah,
well, it's a very interesting topic. All speakers are marvelous. I'm interested so much to ask questions. May I first to Professor Nakayama, what a very interesting explanation, Prof. Well, I'm interested as far as heard that you speak about the purpose of your research or your technique or method just now. It's about to build a student basic communicative competence. It is interested. I mean, I interest a lot of this aspect. could you tell us more about the basic communicative competence that can be built from the basic or elementary students? Since we are regarding with pragmatic competence, grammatical competence, sociolinguistics, and there are 4 elements of communicative competence, and you started with the basic community competence for elementary students. And please elaborate that more, Professor. I need the information. And for the second question, may I look for Dr. Laili?
Okay, so yes, later on with Dr. Laili, definitely. So yes, please, Professor Nakayama, if you'd like to answer the questions first.
Okay.
Okay, sorry, I'm not quite, I hope I'm understanding your question correctly, but was your question about, at first I explained that in the elementary school, the communicative competence is one of the goals to develop in elementary school, and how that relates to my research. Okay. Okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
Especially for elementary students, Prof. That's what interests me a lot.
Okay.
For elementary students, yeah.
Yeah, and actually developing communicative competence is the goal for like elementary and junior and senior, like all English classes in Japan.
Yes.
And yeah, I think basically, yeah, as you mentioned, those components, like, but in addition to that, I believe like intercultural competence is also very, very important. And since we are studying English in order to communicate with broader a person who does not share the common background, so I believe that as like Byron explains, study in order to enhance students, intercultural competence is really important, and especially in this elementary school age when they're still like really curious and still doesn't have like a preset conceptions to the other cultures. I really believe that it's important for them to get interested in like differences, like different cultures. And yeah, so that's kind of my interest in my research and study is to like how I can design like a class to develop like intercultural competence. Like we tend to focus on linguistic and yeah, and that's also important. But so we have to keep on studying for the rest of their lives in order to be good speakers and good communicators. I really believe that yeah, especially for the beginning age, like elementary school, I want them to get interested in the other cultures, different cultures, like even within themselves too. There are many things that they are unknown. So yeah, so that's the reason. That's the first step to start the project.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Sorry, because of, well, a bit out of time. So
Okay.
yeah, thank you. I hope that
Thank you, Prof.
Actually, so Dr. Laili, there are questions for you as well. First, because Leffy is here, so if you'd like to ask her question, please can you make it as short as possible if you could? Thank you very much.
Right, okay, I will. Now, Dr. Laili, it's very interesting. My simple questions. How do you ensure the level of students' achievement by using different data? Thank you.
Thank you, Bu Leffy. Sorry, can you please repeat your question? How
do you ensure the level of student achievement when you use different data A, B, C? Thank you.
Okay, so the level of the students.
The level of their achievement, I mean, you use different data, right? Okay.
Yeah. So the 3 levels has different different standards. So here how to ensure that the learning is achieved is through the when the target the learning objective is achieved through, for example, DELA A, the students can understand the dialogue, the simple dialogue, and similarly the DELA B students also can understand the dialogue, the same expressions dialogue, but different levels of the different different words, different level of the words. So the thing to achieve is they have similar learning objective, but through different ways.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
as long as they can achieve the targeted learning objective, so they can, it means that they can achieve the objective of the learning.
Since we have very heterogeneous students in one class, right?
Yeah,
Slow
because
students.
yeah. So we cannot force all the students with similar or with the same levels or same complicated questions. So,
But still at the same learning objective. Wonderful.
yeah, the
That's
same
good.
learning objective. Okay,
Yes,
thank you.
thank you, Doctor.
Leffy.
Thank you, Leffy. So thank you very much. And then just as one quick question for Dr. Liley, actually, just one more. How do you assess students' learning when they are choosing different assessment packages? Will one higher proficiency students choose an easier package to pass the assessment? It's quite tricky, but yes.
Okay, so from the pre-assessment, starting from the pre-assessment, the students already like grouped to A, B, or C. Those who are who gets a score below the quartile, the first quartile, can work on DELA A, and then those in the middle can work on DELA B, and then those who are excels in DELA C. But it doesn't have to be all the students all the students do the packets that they have to do. There is a case in some schools that the students actually were grouped into DELA B, but they say to the teacher that I want to work on the C package. So as long as the students want, and it turns out that the students can work on the activities on DELA C, but for the performance test, it is not related to the readiness to learn, not related to the score of the pre-assessment, but the students can, if they are very confident enough, they can perform their speaking in front of the class. But some students prefer, Miss, I prefer to create video because they can work with their friends, not always in the not in the school, and they can have more preparations, and they don't need to be struggling with their nervous.
Yes.
That is.
Okay, so thank you very much, Dr. Liley. Very, very insightful speech and also answer. Thank you very much. So just because of time, sorry, everybody, I know that we would like to continue our discussion, but the time is important as well. So just now, the speaker session and questions have ended. So now I'd like you to move to the other session, which is actually the acknowledgement. So just a quick reminder that our webinar here, we also have an e-certificate later on, so please stay tuned until the end of that. But before we go, I'd like to take this opportunity to introduce our Asia TOEFL Professional Network Committee members who have worked tirelessly behind the scene for the 2023 webinar series, and they are the ones who have set up pre-meetings for webinar topics, contacted all of the speakers, designed the posters, provided you with reminders about the webinars, and help organize the Zoom attendance and all that. And they have been with us throughout all the webinars. So please see who they are. The committee team, please share the screen for us to see our committee, please. Professor Prakasith Sisakun and the advisory board and all of the chairs and technical management, publicly and promotion, and the data management. Thank you very much. Yes, all of these 17 committee members from Malaysia and Thailand who have worked together to ensure the webinar series is conducted successfully. And also our sponsorship, we would like to thank Chet Yong National University of Education, who has sponsored a Zoom account with a maximum capacity of 1,000 attendees, which we are utilizing for the 2023 webinar series free of charge. So thank you very much again for your support. And now I would like to thank all of the participants for attending the fourth Asia TEFL webinar series. This is the last one. And we'd like to take this opportunity to take pictures together to end this session. Can you please switch on your cameras so that we can take some photographs together, please? And then, of course, I would tell you later about things that we would like to tell. So yes, now the technical team, please help us screen shots the photos here. So if you could please turn on your cameras and giving us a lovely smile, that would be lovely.
All right,
okay.
Thank you. On the count of 3, everybody. 1, 2, 3. One more, please. All right, thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Thank you for that. So yes, great. So now it's come to the our e-certificate. So as I inform you, we are happy to issue an e-certificate to all of you who have attended this webinar. So please, our technical team to share the link and the QR code on the screen so that our attendees could use that and fill in the form. Could you please share the screen for us, please, so that everybody could see the QR code with the links. Okay, so this is the link and the QR codes for the e-certificate. So just please scan that on the screen, and just to let you know that the e-certificate is computer generated, and please put the right email address and also ensure that your name and surname are correct, okay, in terms of spelling, because we are not able to reissue any certificates in case of spelling errors. So please make sure to double check your name and your email address before sending that to us. And just so you know that an e-certificate, you may not get that straight away. So please allow us to do that for about 2 weeks or so, just in case. So once the e-certificates have been sent, we will send you a notification email to everyone who registered for the event. And then you also, you can let us know by a certain date in case that if you do not receive your e-certificates, and you can email us. And yes, so please be patient while we are taking time to ensure the accuracy of that as well. So yes, while you are doing that, I just want to let you know that the Asia TEFL webinar series will be held again in May 2024, but please stay updated on our website in terms of when we will start that. But for now, I can tell you in principle that the webinar will be held again in May 2024. And then for those who are interested to be our member of Asia TEFL, you can also do so by visiting our website, worldwideweb.asiatefl.org. And then if you become the member, you will receive many privileges and be able to connect with our worldwide Asia TEFL members. So as you know that Asia TEFL is internationally recognized by international members across the globe. So if you think that would be a good opportunity for you to stay yourself updated and want to be a member, please do so by going to the asiatefl.org and to see more details about how to be a member. But something that is quite interesting that Professor Park, who told us at the very beginning about our exciting international conference. So if you become a member, you would get 20% or more on Asia TEFL conference rates and as you can see on the screen now, that is where the Asia TEFL is hosting. It's actually located in Thailand, and then it's called 22nd Asia TEFL International Conference, which will take place from 15 to 17 November 2024 at Chiang Rai Ratchapat University. So, which is actually the northern part, and it's a really, really nice landscape there. And the theme for the international conference in November next year is multi-ethnicity in English language teaching, inclusivity and diversity. So if you are interested in being the presenter and want to submit your abstracts, please wait for that. We will let you know soon about when to submit, and you can please stay updated on our website again, so asiatefl.org. So, right, so I think it's now the time. So thank you very much, everybody, for joining us, from the start that we have begun the Asia TEFL webinar series in May, and up until now. Time flies, definitely, but of course, please stick together, because that is the only way for us to make connections. And of course, please go to our website if you have something that you want to know more about membership and also the conferences. So I'll see you again, of course, in the next webinar in 2024. So thank you, everybody all around the world here, and please stay safe and take care, and I'll see you again next time. And for now, bye-bye.
Thank you
very much.
Thank you so much. Bye-bye.
Thank you ขอบคุณครับ